All right.
What are we drinking today?
So this is from the Belching Beaver, my favorite, a Belching Beaver. It's a peanut butter milk stout.
Ooh, I love milk stouts. Let's try this thing.
Oh my God, that is so good.
Oh,
I could taste the peanut butter.
we've done it. We've broken our cycle of shitty beer. That's legitimately delicious.
Yeah, thank God for Belching Beaver.
Peanut butter milk stout. Oh, that tastes really, really good. For those of you who like a stout, or if you don't like a stout, this may make you like a stout. It's delicious. Good job, Cleet. You've redeemed yourself because the last couple beers you've had have really made me sad inside.
Bitch.
So, Cleet, this is a very, very special episode, and why is that?
We're going to be posting this on Tuesday, which is our year anniversary since starting the podcast.
Yep. As of today, it's been one whole year since we dropped our very first episode. It's crazy. A whole year's gone by.
You might not be able to see it, but we have monocles on right now.
Because we're fancy. We've done it. Monocles. We've grown out our beards. Mine a little bit more. You've shaved yours a couple times. It's not okay. But we've made it for a whole year, guys. It's insane. It's crazy. And it's because of you continuously listening to us that we keep doing it. Because if we haven't had anybody listening, we'd be like, we're done. We're not going to do this. So we've got a couple things that we wanted to share with you because obviously we're very proud about being on the air for a year. So through our Buzzsprout things, if you've been listening to us through Buzzsprout or, Spotify, whatever you like to choose, we have 2,623 downloads since published on all of our podcast promotion, all of our podcast distribution stuff. So it's really, really cool.
Don't forget about YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is next. So we've actually had 2,015 views on YouTube, which is a whole total of 281.4 hours that have been watched.
Yeah, YouTube, I want you to catch up.
Come on, YouTube. You got to catch up to everybody else. We have 32 subscribers. It's really, really awesome. I couldn't believe that we had this over the whole year. I didn't expect us to get that big. I mean, we're still really small according to podcast stuff. But
we only got one super subscriber on YouTube, but she knows who she is.
You know who you are. The last thing I wanted to say, too, that's really cool that I like as far as where we've been listened to, it's not just the United States, even though, it dominates with 2,033 downloads. But as of today, we've been listened to in 33 different countries and territories.
That's pretty cool.
It's insane. 409 total cities. Salt Lake City, of course, has the top. The United States, of course, has the top, followed by United Kingdom and France. What do you think about that? So our UK listeners in France, we love you. Thank you. Ooh, ooh.
Pass me a baguette because I love France.
It's a baguette and some cheddar. All right. So anyway, guys, we have a whole lot of other content coming this year. So thank you so much for sticking with us through the whole year. But we have a shot that we're going to take.
Celebratory shot.
Last time we had a shot, we doomed 2020. So let's hope 2021 is not like that. Cheers. It's pretty smooth.
Yeah, I like it. It's good stuff.
Ooh, Lord Calvert.
All right, so we have a couple good topics here tonight. I wanted to pick out one specifically that's been special to wanting to cover, but I wanted to save it for this episode.
Oh.
It's called Mel's Hole.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know who Mel is, but we're talking about their hole.
Yeah. And
okay.
What is your topic?
I am going to be covering 2 serial killers that may still be active to this day. We don't know. They just disappeared, and they might still be out there.
Could be in your backyard. Go look right now.
It could be your dad or your mom. All right, so I'm assuming we're going to jump into Mel's hole first?
Yep, let's jump into Mel's hole.
Sorry, Mel.
All right, so I don't know if I mentioned this already on the podcast, but what originally inspired me to start something like this was Coast to Coast Radio.
I don't know if I've heard of Coast. Well, actually, I think I have.
Yeah, it's the thing on AM stations, and whenever you're playing it at night, they generally have a little bit of creepy stuff that are on there. The host used to be Art Bell, and this is one of my favorite interviews they've ever done. It's interview 1 with Mel. So this happened in 1997.
So the interviewee is Mel, and we're covering Mel's hole?
Yep.
Mel, tell me about your hole.
So originally, Art received a fax from a man named Mel Waters. The fax explained that Mel had what appeared to be a bottomless pit on his property near Manistash, Washington. Soon thereafter, Art booked Mel on his radio show, where Mel explained what would become known as Mel's hole to the world. You just showing his hole to everybody.
I mean, if you got a hole to be proud of, man, you just shout it. There's no need to hide it. I like that you just can't say Mel's hole without laughing.
Mel was interviewed over the phone, and at the time of the interview, he was not at home, but in the town of Ellensburg, Washington. Mel had bought this property a few years earlier from the previous owners, who had owned the land for over 30 years prior to that. The neighbors knew of the hole quite well and would regularly dump their garbage in it, but the hole would never fill up.
How much garbage are they dumping down there?
Could you imagine? You're just like, I got a hole in the property and I just throw whatever I want in it. Like there's stories of like them throwing refrigerators in there, dead cows.
Wow.
Anything.
A whole car maybe?
Yeah. So I'm going to play a little bit of a clip of kind of what he was talking about from the original interview.
All right.
And so there's been a thing of throwing stuff down this hole for a long time.
It's been going on, for as long as the hole has been there, I assume. Trash, rubbish, anything we have that we have to get rid of, we take it, throw it in the hole. Everyone's throwing their stuff in the hole.
I feel like he's like super casual about it.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, whatever.
Just some rubbish. We throw it in there. It doesn't really matter.
We don't use trash cans anymore. Just this big hole in my backyard.
I wonder like what's the craziest stuff like he's thrown in there.
Probably a person.
The people from around there throw all the stuff in the hole. I mean, it's just been going on for a long time. Well, I got this thinking one day, how come this hole is not filling up? It must be an awfully deep hole.
I just feel like that's a weird... I feel like you'd come to that conclusion a lot sooner.
Right.
Like, after how long of just throwing shit in a pit, do you realize, like, wow, this isn't filling up. What's going on?
Well, to mimic your question, I mean, I wonder what they're throwing down there. Because if it's just your typical, like, what you throw out every week for, like, the trash, it might not be that bad. But if you're, like, pushing old cars down there and your weekly killing field and all that, I mean, if you're just throwing a bunch of big shit down there, then yeah, like, I'd be like, okay, what the hell's going on? But if it's a bunch of small trash, it might take a really long time. Why not try and throw a flare down there?
How deep is Mel's hole?
Apparently pretty deep if you're fitting things inside of it that big.
That's a good thing to consider, sure, as you throw stuff in it for decades, literally.
Wow.
Decades on end, they're throwing shit into this thing.
Yep. Now let's describe Mel's hole. It's not just some ordinary hole. It's a round pit.
I don't know. It's this whole thing, man. I mean, you could have picked any other topic, but you just had to find Mel's hole.
Yeah, it's actually really captivating, I think, and it's all the way from 97. I haven't heard any other people cover it, All right. Mel's hole needs to be discovered.
Well, let's distribute Mel's hole.
So Mel would say that someone took particular care in this hole. Like, they built a little surrounding structure around it that looked pretty nice. It extended down about 15 feet below the ground surface. Beyond the wall of the hole bore through dirt and bedrock, and from there, darkness as far as the eye could see. Mel had never met anybody who could remember when the hole was not there. There seemed to be nothing other than reason to indicate that the pit had a bottom either. No matter what you dropped into the hole, you would never hear it hit the end. Not a splash, not a crash, nothing. No noise from the top seemed to echo back either.
So there's a couple things here. Number one, like I said, try and throw a flare down there. Number two, just, get one of those like crane trucks, tie to it and rappel down. Get like a repeller down there and just keep going.
All right, hang on here. So when I was reading about this, I was thinking about, even pretty recently in my life, like whenever you're like on top of like a giant like mountain cliff edge and you see a big rock.
When have you been on a cliff edge in your recent life?
Tell me you don't want to throw that rock over the edge.
Of course, I have several times.
I remember I was hiking with a friend. We found this giant rock that neither of us could pick up by ourselves, but if we both picked it up, we could. And we threw it over the edge. And that thing made the loudest fucking noise when it hit the ground.
Or when it hit the person that you killed.
No, look out!
Never seen you drive away from somewhere so fast.
Look out, Mike! Ha ha! And the other thing is, the echo thing's pretty interesting because, whenever you're in a cave or you're yelling down into a canyon, there's an echo, and that's because the sound waves bounce the bottom and they come back up. So it's really strange that there wouldn't be an echo here.
Yeah. Well, if there's no bottom, what's it going to bounce off of?
So the only sound that was made when you threw something in the well is if you kind of like threw it at like diagonally, it would ricochet against the sides, but eventually it would, center, and then it would just be drop and you wouldn't hear anything. There are other oddities as well with this hole. So animals feared the hole. Mel's dogs would follow him everywhere, and they were loyal and trustworthy, but they never would approach the hole. So I want to play a clip of him talking about that.
All right.
As usual, I brought the dogs with me.
Like, why do you want to bring your dogs there? Like, if it's like, come check out my hole, puppies.
He's got the leash. Why won't you come to my hole?
Yeah, right? Like, why are you trying to get the dogs to go there? If they don't want to go there, then just fucking let them be.
Animal cruelty.
They wouldn't go anywhere near the damn thing, and, if I try to bring them there on a leash, they'll just dig their feet in. They do not want to go anywhere near the hole.
My first question after hearing that, though, is how many fucking dogs has this guy thrown in the hole?
God, you always, like foreshadow what I'm going to go into next. It's so bizarre.
Just always cock block you. It's
Oh,
like,
every
hey,
time.
you keep pissing on the carpet, I'm going to fucking throw you in that goddamn hole.
So this is where it gets creepy. Yeah. So Mel recalls a story while he's been being interviewed from his neighbor. And I guess his neighbor threw his dog down the well that recently died.
Oh, so it was dead already.
Again, yeah, I mean, like him and his neighbors know about this hole. Like everyone in the area just knows about Mel's hole.
Right,
And
but
they just throw all their shit in it.
Right, but when you say he threw his dog in, my first question, what the fuck? But then you followed up with, that was dead. So if you say he threw his dead dog in, maybe I wouldn't have such a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah,
because
it's not like animal cruelty.
fucking cruelty. Animal croutons.
The story is the guy that did it swears the dog actually came back to him.
So this is some like pet cemetery shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought too. But it's bizarre because if you throw something into a bottomless pit, how does it just appear? And like I went more into the story because it's hard to put context with that. But like literally, he throws the dead dog in the hole and he's out hunting and he sees what he believes is his dead dog.
Yeah, but like literally, the second he said that, I'm like, wait, it's like pet cemetery, but this is pet hole.
And he was out there hunting, and he saw the same dog. He had the same collar. He had the same little, little metal thing on his collar there.
He's got that collar and that little dangly metal thing from the collar.
Don't
I mean
make
the
fun
tag.
of him. You know, he has a traumatic experience from his hole.
Oh, okay, good one. It's just like he got the same little dog collar and dog tag. His name was still JoJo.
Except he didn't come to me. I don't know why.
And he said it was the same dog. And he says he knew he threw the dog into the hole.
All right, Britton, so what would you do if you thought you had a bottomless pit in your backyard? Like, what would you do experimental-wise?
The same thing they're doing. I just start throwing shit in there. Like, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, the desire not to throw something in there would be just too great. Like, I'm just throwing everything in there. I'm throwing rocks, push a tree into it, especially after I figured that it was...
A clown?
Right, a clown. Especially after decades and it's like not filling up. I'm like, okay, we need to up the stakes. Who has a trailer that we can push down this thing?
So Mel decides to science up because curiosity got the best of him. And he decides he wants to run a little bit more official experiments outside of just throwing shit down there.
So he probably had Bill Nye the Science Guy on speed dial.
Bill.
Bill Nye the Science Guy.
So Mel is a former shark fisherman. So he knew that he could determine whether or not there was water in the pit, provided he had enough fishing line to extend to the water.
It's going to be Mel's Hole Sharks.
He simply strung the end of his line, so he gets a little like fishing line attached to a fishing pole, and he just throws it down the hole. But what he has on the fishing line is like a little 1 pound weight, and he attaches a little lifesaver candy to it.
Okay.
Which kind of sounds weird. So what he's doing is, if the lifesaver hits water and he leaves it there for a while and reels it up, if it's dissolved, he knows there's water.
Right.
So he
or a
drops
really hungry something that likes lifesavers.
Yeah, maybe. There's a bite, like two.
Oh my God.
So he drops it 1,500 feet into this hole and he just leaves it there for a while.
It's not Children of the Corn, it's Children of the Hole.
So he reels it back up and the lifesaver is still there.
Oh.
Because it should hit water. I mean, when you dig down, you should eventually hit water at some point.
Mel's hole is completely dry.
So in his next experiment, he's like, okay, well, we're going to do more. So he ends up getting a bunch of fishing line and he starts splicing them together. And he just keeps dropping the line down over and over. He's going spool after spool, just trying to figure out where the bottom is. And he gets about to 80,000 feet at this point. 80,000 feet, which is over 15 miles worth, according to his story. Okay? And he's claiming it's still going down freely.
Wow.
That's crazy.
80,000 feet and counting. Just put on your bathing suit and do a cannonball. He'll find out soon enough if there's water in that thing.
Art's audience was intrigued but generally skeptical. People called in to give Mels ideas for further experiments. One said that there was a chance the line had already hit bottom and simply remained taut under the pull of its own weight.
Right.
So, like, for example...
It's just coiling or something on the bottom?
Yeah, and there's already, like, 1 pound there, so it just keeps going.
Yeah.
It's like a perpetual thing with gravity.
That thought crossed my mind for a little bit.
Yeah. And another caller, he calls in, he's like, how much weight does that fishing line hold? And he's like, well, 20 pounds. And he's like, well, how much fishing line have you dropped for 80,000 feet? He's like, wouldn't that be 20 pounds?
Yeah.
Why isn't it broken? Which Mel was sure that it hadn't broken, even though the laws of physics would say it has.
Fuck physics.
And another suggested using radar to determine the pit's true depth.
Now we're talking.
This one you'll like. One gentleman actually suggested throwing a live cat down the pit to listen for it to stop crying out of terror.
Why would I like that? Like, you believe I've like throwing cats in some holes?
Buddha, I'm looking at you. And I got a clip for that just for you.
Oh, yes.
Here's somebody from Las Vegas, Mike, suggests that we throw a cat down the hole.
That's weird. He didn't say Britain. Were you like changing your name for that?
Yeah,
97?
I paid some money to have my name changed.
I imagine you're like a 6-year-old.
I would have been 6, yeah.
And you're like, you should throw a cat in there.
Good idea. Oh, my name's Mike, by the way.
Listen to the cat scream as it goes down. It's a horrible idea. I don't know about people who do that, throw down a cat. Oh, man.
Yeah, fuck you, Britain.
I'm sorry. It seemed like a good idea at the time. My 6-year-old self was a little upset on that day.
And you hear the echoes sort of going down.
I seriously want to know the guy, though, that's like, yeah, throw a cat down there. It's going to be a great idea. But what would happen, like, if it got quieter and all of a sudden it started getting louder and the cat came right back out of that hole?
It starts to roar. You're like, fuck, run.
Shit. It's like twice the size.
So Art had a few ideas of his own with experiments. What he said is he suggested finding a volunteer to be lowered into the pit.
See?
To report on what lay below. And like, to me, like, would you volunteer for that?
I don't know.
I'd do it. I'd be like, let's draw me in.
First thing, I'm like, yeah, but then as you're starting to get down, it's like, wait.
The rope's breaking.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I mean, if he's theoretically already tested 80,000 feet, that's a long way down.
Imagine just falling forever. Eventually it'd get boring.
Yeah. You're just like, I can't scream anymore. I'm kind of tired. I'll take a nap.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
It's a long fucking time to fall. Forever.
So Mel expressed concerns that there might be unknown dangers further into the pit, like high temperatures, extreme air pressures, toxicity, heavy gases, and the like.
And worm people.
There's some gas in Mel's hole.
Of course.
Nevertheless, despite these concerns, one caller quickly volunteered for the job.
There's always one that's like eager, like, I'll do it. I'll put my life on the line to jump into this here Mel's hole.
Yeehaw! Let's play the clip.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier, would like somebody to be lowered down into the hole.
That's right.
I would be willing to do that.
See, there you go, sir, a volunteer.
Yeah, I mean, obviously under certain conditions.
Like what?
Dude, why did Art get so pissed when he said that?
That was my question. Like what? Like, he's like cheering him on, like, yeah, volunteer. Well, under certain circumstances. Like the fuck what, bro?
He's so ready to sacrifice someone to some, like, supernatural pit. In the moment they have conditions, he gets mad.
Yeah. He's like, I don't want to know your conditions. Just fucking jump down there. I don't care if you come back out. We need to find out.
Get in there. We're just going to push you in. Fuck off.
Yeah, he got, like, so upset. Like what?
Just a cage, for one.
A cage?
Yeah, just in the event that there's some kind of weird subterranean thing eating all of this garbage down there.
A cage Like a strip dancer in a cage?
Well, there might be a shark down there.
There might be multiple sharks.
This could be like a TV reality show like Shark Week, but in a pit.
Whole week. But I think if I could be in a cage, I think that'd be pretty cool because it's like you said, like shark diving in that cage, but you're being lowered into an 80,000 plus foot pit.
Yeah. What if I would still be afraid if it broke, because that'd be the worst way to go, because you'd be like, oh my God, I'm falling. Then after a couple months, you'd be like, man. After a couple days, you'd be like...
A couple months is what it takes?
After a couple days, you're like, man, I'm thirsty. Where's this water I was told about?
You die of like dehydration and starvation while still falling. That's the other part, is the cage would add so much weight. So I think I'd be like, let's ixnay the cage, just lower me down.
Yeah. Art also came up with the idea of allowing the government to dispose of radioactive waste into the pit for a fee, provided it really was essentially bottomless. Art's from Las Vegas, so that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, let's just make Mel's Hole radioactive while we're at it, because there's nothing worse that could happen.
Mel's Hole is in pain.
Y'all don't go near Mel's Hole. It's glowing green today.
At one point in the show, Mel claimed he dropped more than one television vacuum tube into the pit.
More than one.
Hoping to hear it implode. Again, this is in 97, so televisions, they're big, they're heavy, they're full of bad chemicals, and I'm pretty sure television tubes, they explode.
I think so.
Yeah, so let's play the clip.
Flash. I've even taken old television tubes, the picture tubes, and
You've dropped picture tubes down there?
I've dropped. I hate to say this here, but I've dropped more than one of them down there, and I've never heard it implode or anything.
Talk about incriminating yourself.
I love it. He's like, I don't want to say this, but since it's for the interview, I've dropped several illegal things down here.
I'd laugh if later he's like, that was a joke.
Yeah. don't report me, right?
EPA, isn't that funny?
I pushed my wife down there. Just kidding. It was just a television tube. It didn't explode.
So to me, I feel like clearly, if this is a true story, Mel has some type of weird attraction, whether it's magnetic to the supernatural, that he has to go to the pit. Whenever he talks about it, he seems happy,
Right.
And he laughs nervously,
Well, he's proud of his hole.
But here's a clip that kind of makes it a little bit more creepy. If you're to go listen to him do the interview again.
If you had a fatal disease, Mel,
Yeah,
would you jump in the hole?
I would. It's in my will, meet my demise, disposed of into the well.
My God. My God.
So, Britton, if you were ever terminally ill, would you be okay being thrown into a bottomless pit?
Thrown in? Probably not. Voluntarily, maybe. I don't know.
See ya, Britton.
If it's one of those things that's hey, you've got a couple weeks to live. You could die any day now. I'm going to be like, you know what? I'm going to be the guy that jumps into Mel's eternal hole. I'm going for it. Why not? What do you have to lose?
Tell us when you hit the bottom.
But then my luck could be the next day. It's oh, we found a cure. Where is he? Oh, he jumped into that fucking hole.
God damn it.
Well, all right.
Well, guys, that's going to conclude Mel's Hole. This is actually a one-part interview of 5.
Oh.
So if you really like this, please recommend that we do it going forward. We could do an additional 4 episodes of this.
I really enjoy talking about Mel's Hole.
Yeah, Mel's Hole, was it bottomless or not, or was it just really long?
Radioactive. Haunted even? I don't know.
Everyone put shit in Mel's Hole.
But shit never came out of Mel's Hole.
The dog did.
Ruff, ruff. Woof, woof, motherfucker.
Ruff, ruff, motherfucker.
Right, stop it. All right. Well, that was pretty exciting stuff. So let's go ahead and move on to my topic, which are a couple of serial killers that may still be active this year.
So let's jump out of Mel's Hole and we'll go to the serial killers.
Let's do it. I'm done talking about holes today. I've reached my hole capacity today. Okay, so the first potential active serial killer is Pedro Alonso, otherwise known as the Monster of the Andes. Oh, Pedro is a Colombian serial killer who is thought to be responsible for the murders of over 300 people.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's a serial killer. Can you be a serial killer?
A super serial killer.
Super serial killer. That's a serial villain. Pedro Alonso Lopez is not just a serial killer, but has also been diagnosed as a sociopath, and he has been said to wander around Peru and Ecuador in search for young girls to murder. I feel like almost every serial killer is a sociopath. I feel like those go hand in hand.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'd be more surprised if it was like, he was known to be very emotional and kind.
he was unlike any serial killer because he actually liked people. He just wanted to kill them all. While again, it's estimated that he is responsible for killing and raping over 300 girls across Colombia, Peru, and Ecuador, he was convicted for only 110 of them. Only 110. A very small percentage of those killings. Now, the question here is, if we already know who he is and what he was convicted of, then why the hell are we still talking about him being active as of 2021?
A legal loophole.
Oh, they did indeed apprehend him in the year 1980, putting him in prison. This is where he received some international attention as he was interviewed by Ron Leitner, who was a longtime freelance journalist. Leitner found him in the cell and decided to dig into his situation a bit, like you're just cruising through a prison, like, you, sir, I want to interview you. Why are you here? Story. Leitner's interviews became widely published in places like the Chicago Tribune, Toronto Sun, and even the National Enquirer, just to name a few. Leitner described Pedro's story about becoming the monster of the Andes after he led police to 53 graves in Ecuador that all belonged to girls that were only 12 years old.
Ew.
53 graves, 12 years old. That's disgusting.
You know, there's a hole you could throw them in.
Wow. Didn't think you were going to go there. Thought we were done talking about Mel's hole.
Sorry.
In 1983, he was found guilty for the murders of 110 girls in Ecuador, but confessed to an additional 240 murders in Peru and Colombia. Now, my question is this just him flexing, or is he actually telling the truth? Did he, in fact, murder over 350 people?
Yeah, a lot of people, when they get arrested, they know like they're going to get killed. They're just like, yeah, I did all this. Jack the Ripper? Yeah, I'm
right.
old.
Yeah. It's like 3,000 people at least, and that was just last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Apparently, Pedro had a pretty rough childhood, which may have contributed to his aggressive tendencies later in life. Now, remember when we talked about the McDonald triad?
Yeah, I remember that.
Arson, cruelty to animals, piss in the bed.
Yep.
I didn't find any of that in here. However, he grew up in a broken household where he supposedly witnessed several acts of prostitution from his mother. So he got to grow up watching his mother bring all these fantastic men into the home, and they wrestled.
The old wrestling match.
The old wrestling.
She always won. That's why she got
She
paid.
did. She was taking all the money. So good. His mother then caught him fondling his younger sister in 1957 when he was only 8 years old. That's just gross. His mother banished him from the home after witnessing this, and after being kicked out, Pedro fled to Bogota, which is Colombia's capital city, where he claimed to be abducted and raped by an older man. 8 years old. At the age of 12, he was taken in by a U.S. expatriate family and enrolled in a school for orphans. After 2 years, he ran away from the school because he just couldn't stand it. According to one account, he claimed to have been molested by a male teacher. Other sources say he ran away with the teacher, so who's to be believed? At the age of 18...
Hang on. Dude, he got kidnapped. There's no way he ran away with that teacher. Who would say that?
Yeah, some 12-year-old's like, I'm going to go away with this teacher because he's nice. No. So other sources say he ran away with the teacher. At the age of 18, he started to steal cars and sell them to chop shops. So it's a pretty rough childhood.
Shameless, really shameless.
Yep. He was apprehended for car theft and while in prison claimed to have been brutally gang raped. Oh, God. This caused him to hunt down the most brutal of his rapists and kill them while still in prison. So he's like, I will fucking find you, and I'm going to murder you. He Liam Neesoned them all in prison.
He's like the Punisher, but worse.
Yeah. He said that once he was released, he moved to Peru, where he started murdering young girls. He claimed that by the year 1978, he had already killed over 100 girls before being caught by members of an indigenous tribe. So some random tribe just kidnaps him and takes him. He's like, you're done murdering women. This group supposedly were preparing to execute him when he was saved by the intervention of a Christian missionary from the United States.
Damn Christians.
Hey, they saved this guy, supposedly. He persuaded the tribe to instead hand them over to the police. They handed him over, but he was quickly released by the authorities. They're like, oh, you're good. Like, what the fuck are they doing over there? Lopez claimed that he moved back to Ecuador where he killed roughly 3 girls a week after that. He said, and I quote, "I like the girls in Ecuador. They are more gentle and trusting, more innocent." Fucking sicko. The thing about prison sentences in Ecuador, however, because again, I mentioned that he was, taken into prison, the maximum prison sentence is only 16 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
You can just do whatever you want.
Whatever you wanted.
It's going to cost you 16 years.
So that's the question, right? If you knew that the maximum you were going to be put away for 16 years, would you carry out your most wanted crime?
I'm going to be throwing turds at people from the freeway.
That's what you do?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like a cool bank
in a monkey
heist.
Suit.
That's just up in the stakes. What's that big monkey throwing shit off the overpass for? I'm over there robbing. I'm over there.
Big shit.
I'm over there robbing a bank and then throwing all the money into Mel's hole. I'm going away for 16 years and you're throwing shit at people.
I didn't steal the money. Find it.
Oh, but I mean, again, it doesn't matter what you do in Ecuador. You're only getting away for 16 years. Now, again, it's an Ecuadorian prison, so it's probably a little bit more rough than...
You usually die in 16 years.
Yeah, probably. It probably takes 2 years at that point. Out of the 16-year sentence he was given, he only served 14 of them as he was released in 1995 for good behavior. Can you imagine? 110 people that he's accused of killing. I can just see the headline now, like, man arrested for the murders of 110 victims released from prison today for some good behavior.
That's like a 10th of a year per person.
Right. That's ridiculous,
35 days a kill.
That's sick. After his release, he returned to his native Colombia where he was declared insane, no shit,
in the membrane,
and placed in a psychiatric hospital. He remained in the hospital for 3 years when he was finally declared sane and released in 1998. They fucking cured him. He's never going to kill again. He's like, I feel bad. No more.
I feel bad, man.
I feel
These
bad.
Pepe means really speak to me.
Shortly after his release, he visited his elderly mother and demanded that she give him his inheritance. She's like, Mom? Or he's like, Mom, I want my fucking inheritance.
Was she saving all the prostitute dollars or something?
I think so.
Like a little 10% 401k in a Roth?
She's still in the middle of a wrestling match when he busted in. She confided in him that she was poor, so he went ahead and sold her only possessions, which consisted of a bed and a chair. Both
Why
of which...
did she need a bed and a chair? You think she'd have more?
Not with her line of work. So yeah, he sold her bed and her chair on the streets for pocket cash. He's like, I don't get my inheritance, I'm taking your only furniture. You can fuck on the floor for all I care. Once he sold her dry, he up and vanished. As of today, no one knows where he is or what he's even up to. There are a few concerns around that he may have had a hand in at least one other murder since his disappearance. Will the monster of the Andes make a comeback? Is he out there still today?
Only time will tell.
That's true. So, yeah, so he was released in 1998, went home, disappeared. So, I mean, it's been a long time, but they haven't caught him. I don't know, maybe he just went up and maybe the indigenous tribe caught him again and said, you're not fucking getting away from us again. Chopped his head off. Sent it to his mother.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the monster of the Andes. What do you think, Cleet? You think he's still around? Do you think he's dead? What do you think?
He's probably killing people.
Probably. Okay, so next up is the I-70 killer. Have you heard of this guy?
Yeah, weren't you taking trips on the I-70?
Anyway, let's move on. So the I-70 killer is a still unidentified American serial killer known to have killed 6 store clerks in the Midwest during the spring of 1992. See, it could be me, but I only be 1 year old. I wouldn't even be 1 at the time. I'd be like 8 months.
So what you're saying is you'd be least suspected, so all the more incentive.
Right. Yeah. It's the perfect crime. What kind of fucking 8-month-old is capping people? Really? I'm a pretty little baby. Look at me, motherfucker. He got his name due to the fact that almost every victim was killed in stores only a few miles off Interstate 70. His victims all had similar traits. He had an M.O. They were usually young, petite women with brunette hair. One of his victims, however, was a man wearing a ponytail that was most likely mistaken as a female.
So the last piece of my hair I'm going to have.
You're going to shave everything but the ponytail on the back of your head.
I'm going bald.
Yeah, that's true. Another similarity was that every single store that was targeted was a specialty store and had only been robbed of a few $100s a piece. Kind of crazy, right? The I-70 killer was also suspected of killing 3 more clerks in Texas in 93 and 94, of which 1 survived. Even though this case has been shown on both Unsolved Mysteries and Dark Minds, the killer has yet to be identified and brought to justice. No suspects have been publicly identified either.
Good old Unsolved Mysteries.
Right? I love that show. So let's go ahead and talk about that murder spree of 92, shall we? The murder spree began on April 8th, 1992, when 26-year-old Robin Fuldauer, the manager at Payless Shoe Stores in Indianapolis, was shot. The murder took place sometime between 1:30 and 2 p.m.
Okay.
You used to shop at Payless?
No.
No?
I don't shop.
That's true. The spree continued on April 11th when 2 victims were shot at Le Bride d'Elegance bridal shop in Wichita. These victims were identified as Patricia Smith, 23, and the store's owner, Patricia Magers, who was 32. Both victims named Patricia. What are the odds?
He hates Patricias.
He hates the Patricias.
He's like, what's your name, Patricia? What's
You?
your name, Patricia?
No shit. But, like, what are the odds of 2 Patricias in one go?
It's Lucy.
Nah, you're good, Lucy. I like Lucy's. Karen? Nah.
Yeah. Karen, you're done.
This case was the only one involving more than one victim, which led police to believe that the killer was under the impression that only one woman was inside and was taken completely by surprise by the second. He's like, you, Patricia? Yeah?
So he
Holy
got
shit.
double Patricia.
Yeah, by accident. Was not planned. He only wanted to kill one of them, but then the second one came out of the back room. Double Patricia. The store was set to close at 6 p.m. However, they remained open, allowing time for a male customer to come pick up a cummerbund.
What?
You know what a cummerbund is, right? It's like a little thing that goes over like a petticoat.
Yeah, the cummerbund.
Yeah. That was a big mistake. The killer approached the store sometime after 6 o'clock, and the women allowed him in, thinking that he was the customer coming to pick up his item. So like, hey, we got your cummerbund right here. He's like, what the fuck? That was a big mistake. The killer murdered both women, and shortly after, the actual customer shows up, ready to pick up his item, and comes face to face with the killer. He's like, dude, can I have my cummerbund? I don't care what you did. I need this item. I have a wedding tomorrow.
I need this now.
I won't say shit. Just give me my thing and let's go. He was able to escape the situation and later provided police with details for a composite sketch. On April 27th, our only male victim, Michael McCown, was killed. He was in his mother's ceramic store called Sylvia's Ceramics in Terre Haute, Indiana. The I-70 killer most likely targeted this location as the name of the store suggested a lone woman owning and running the shop. While Michael was bent down stocking shelves, he was shot from behind. The killer most likely suspected him to be a woman.
If you had to be killed in any store, where would you want to be killed?
God, that's a tough one.
Taco Bell.
Ew.
I'd take a little sip of Baja Blast.
Yeah, but then you'd get...
Before I get blasted to hell.
Yeah, so you'd sip your Baja Blast, you'd get shot, and then you'd shit diarrhea everywhere from the Taco Bell
Yeah, but
food.
you'd be dead. Doesn't matter. That diarrhea ain't your problem at that point.
Yeah, I'd want to be like in them, like, a shop that no one would suspect me in, like, I don't know.
At least, like, if I'm in Taco Bell, I could, like, have a cool, like, tagline when I die.
Like what?
Like, if you shot me, you know, God,
I've been Baja Blasted.
Crunch Wrap. I don't know.
Crunch Wrap. Yeah, you got to work on your little talking points there. You're not going to be in any horror movie anytime soon. I want you to think about that, and I want you to report back with what your tagline would be if you're shot in a Taco Bell. I'm going to figure out what store I want to be in. It's going to be in probably a ceramic store, because I don't think I'd ever be in a ceramic store unless I'm picking something up for my wife.
Ceramic stores.
Shut up, bro. I told you that in confidence. Anyway, back to our story here. On May 4th, Nancy Kitzmiller, who was 24, was killed working alone at Boot Village in St. Charles, Missouri. That's where I'd be. I'd be in Boot Village. I don't buy boots. I don't like cowboy boots. I'm not a big boot guy. So if you find me in Boot Village, I get killed there. You're like, what the fuck was he doing in Boot Village?
You like boots.
Boots are made for being shot in.
He had a 40-gallon cowboy hat and some cowboy boots.
She had the shop open by noon and was found dead by customers at 2:30 p.m. That's crazy. So in a matter of 2.5 hours, he just showed up. He probably knew when they were opening. He's like, okay, they open at noon. I'll be back at 12:05. Bam. Our final confirmed victim was killed on May 7th in Raytown, Missouri. 37-year-old Sarah Blessing was working in her privately owned shop named Store of Many Colors, which was a gift shop. She was killed during the day and was seen by the owner of the video store next door. He said he saw the killer enter the shop and heard a pop sound shortly after, then saw him leave. He went into the shop to check on what happened, discovering Sarah's body. Like, I just heard this popping noise. It kind of sounded like a gunshot, but I wasn't quite so sure. Another witness, a clerk at a nearby grocery store, saw the suspect as he was climbing a hill towards I-70. So those are the, women and man that he killed in 92. So let's go ahead and talk about the other murders in Texas that he might have been responsible for. Some investigators believe it's the same killer due to the similarities in the killings. On September 25th, 1993, 51-year-old Mary Ann Glasscock was shot and killed at the Emporium Antique Store in Fort Worth.
What was her last name again?
Glasscock.
Okay.
22-year-old Amy Vess was shot to death in a dance apparel store in Arlington on November 1st. Yeah, I'm going to say something here. I might regret it. We should push the Glasscock into Mel's hole.
Yes! All right! I'm leaving it.
Do it. You have to leave that
We
one.
gotta throw the glass cock in Mel's hole.
Oh,
and then it
no.
shatters and he's hurt.
That's the only noise they hear is the Glasscock shattering.
Oh my god!
Oh, it's like only 50 feet deep. Our surviving victim that I mentioned earlier was 35-year-old Vicky Webb, who was shot on January 15th, 1994 in Houston. She was at the Alternatives gift shop and had briefly talked with the shooter before he shot her in the back of the head. So she's like, hey, what do you like from this store? He's like, you? She turns around and shoots her.
It's like, hey, will you pick up that for me, please?
Oop, I dropped that. Yeah, sure. She was extremely lucky as the bullet didn't penetrate her head due to a large vertebrae being hit. The shooter attempted to shoot her again, but the gun misfired. He fled the scene thinking that she was dead. Because, you shoot someone in the back of the head. You're thinking they're dead. They're not going to be alive. The modus operandi was very similar to that of the I-70 killer, along with a .22 caliber firearm being used in both cases. After some ballistics tests were performed, it was concluded that the gun used in Texas was not the same as the I-70 murders. Therefore, investigators could not 100% confirm that they were the same killer. Based on all the witness descriptions and...
I was in Texas around that time. That's strange.
Yeah. Well, how old were you in 94?
Let's just say my current stats are 30 and 5'7".
Oh, well, I got some bad news for you, buddy. Based on all the witness descriptions and 2 composite sketches, the I-70 killer was described as a white man in his 20s or 30s, roughly 5'7", and having lazy eyelids and sandy blonde or reddish hair in 92. Dude, you have some pretty lazy eyelids.
Dude, yeah.
This has been classified as a cold case as of December 2019, so just a little over a year ago. As no suspects have been identified, some of the victims' families have completely given up hope of finding out the truth.
Well, we'll figure it out, guys.
If you have any idea who this might be, send the tips directly to us. Entertheabysspod@gmail.com. And with that being said, guys, that does wrap up our 1-year episode.
What a special episode.
What a special
Just a bunch of
year.
special guys doing a special episode.
And we talked about a big old hole.
Well, Mel's hole.
Mel's hole. We talked about some killings, throwing stuff down another hole, a cat, maybe some dogs. But honestly, everyone, thank you so much. If you've given us a listen at any time of the year, contributed to awesome success, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. We're definitely going to continue our work going into the year. If you have any suggestions, comments, feedback, or even if you hate us and just don't want to hear us anymore, send us the information. Entertheabysspod@gmail.com. But that will wrap up our year special. Thank you so much for tuning in.
As always, thank you for entering the abyss.
Until next time.